Let's talk about Palantir because we haven't talked about Palantir enough this week. So let's talk about Palantir. Yes, I saw the hood upgrade. We'll talk about that. Mizuho raised it from 60 to 65. 60 to 65. So got a nice little hood upgrade today that might be helping the stock as well. Palantir's at 111. It's pretty damn incredible. The company now has a market cap of $253 billion. It is the number 40th company in the world. It is the 40th largest company, at least in the S&P 500, via market cap. So $253 billion market cap. It is valued more than Accenture, Cisco, Toyota, Alibaba, Morgan Stanley, Merck, GE, McDonald's, Goldman Sachs, Disney, Shell, Bank of China, Pepsi, Adobe, Qualcomm, HSBC. I mean, it goes on and on and on. A $250 billion market cap is it's quite the valuation that the street has given us, but we are getting the valuation right now. So, I mean, look, the quantitatively, again, I said this last night. I've been saying this all week. There's no way for me to justify the numbers. It's obviously crazy, insane, wild, amazing, whatever adjective you want to put on it, but it's happening. It is indeed happening. And, I think 10 years from now, we're all going to remember that we were living in the moment where this was happening in front of our eyes, but it's here. It's happening and it's here right now. Now, here's my thoughts in terms of the current price, and then we'll get into some other topics, but this is how I'm thinking about this. I think the resilience on this stock is like something I've never seen before. And quite frankly, I think everyone is getting excited about Palantir. We hit 114.25 in the pre-markets, by the way. And I think the idea that Palantir would have to go back down to 70, 80, 65 is just hard to imagine at this point, because now you're talking about almost a 50% drawdown to get to some of those numbers, or 45%, 35. And that's a hard drawdown. This week or this year, we've only had a 17.9% drawdown from like 85 to 65 at the lows in the beginning of January. And that was the extent of it. So the idea, and like every dollar it goes up, again, it just gets a little bit harder for it to come back down in regards to the perception of it not being a dip. And if we get down to 100 from 111, I mean, 10% down, that tends to be a dip, right? And if you get down 20%, that tends to be a pullback. You go down 25, 30%. If you're bullish on ELF, you kind of have to buy it today, right? Like there's no way you were buying ELF at 109 and you're not buying it at 67. That's a hell of a pullback. If this same thing happens to Palantir, we're at 111 and we fall to like 70, you kind of have to buy that dip if you were buying it at 111. Now, if you're not buying it at 111 and you're waiting for 70, then it is what it is. But the point is, I think there is so much strength and momentum in terms of the big players that are getting involved. Palantir's market cap, obviously now at 250 billion, that it's going to be hard to see a dramatic decline, which means it is going to be expensive for a long time. It's probably going to be expensive for the rest of its history. But I mean, it's what do you say? You just kind of, we talked about this a lot over the week. You kind of sit back and enjoy the ride. Sam, who was on the channel yesterday on the market close, he said, look, if you haven't sold yet, then why would you sell? Right? It's like, if you've actually held on so long, then you kind of just see the story and see the thesis play out. And if you have to handle a 30, 40, 50% drawdown, then you deal with it. But you'll probably still be in the green if you were in very early. So my thoughts on this are the same thoughts I've had the whole week. I mean, at $100, valuation was wild. At 111, valuation's wild as well. So at 120, is valuation going to be wild? Yes. But the degree to which we think of wild or insane or like crazy on the valuation scale, does it change that dramatically from 100 to 120? Not really, especially when the stock is taking a life of its own outside of just the conventional metrics that people use for valuation. So from that perspective, I continue to believe that more and more people will get excited about the name. The company will continue to execute. And as long as they do that, then you're going to see more momentum for Palantir. And you could probably see more stock price appreciation. Is it going to make sense on a pure valuation basis if we hit $300 billion in the next, at this point, 5 days or whatever? Probably not. But it doesn't make sense at 250 either. So why would it make sense at 300? Why would it make sense at 200? My point is the stock is taking a life of its own. And at this point, the entire street, big money, retail has bought into that story. Retail just happened to buy into that story a lot earlier than the street. And that's the sort of argument that we're seeing right now on Palantir. Amit has a severe bias, which is fair. Look, obviously I'm biased. I'm emotionally attached to it as well. But I also think I'm being pretty objective. Like, is Palantir really that different from a $200 billion market cap to 250? No, because both those numbers, anyone would say like, yeah, it's really hard to kind of justify 200 versus 250. So what makes it, does it make it that much more crazier if you go from 200 to 250? Not really. The stock goes from 80 to 100. All right, at 80, everyone was saying, well, this is pretty, exceptional in terms of a rich valuation. So same thing at 100. So my point is here is just if the stock is taking on its own life and the stock is developing its own characteristics that are beyond the numbers, historically, can that be bad? Sure, we could definitely have moments where that results in 30, 40% drawdowns. It's just Palantir is such a unique situation where people have bought in so early. I mean, dude, someone sent me a screenshot last night of a guy of a guy in California. He bought 4,000 shares at $9, held on the whole time. It's worth $400,000. It's just like, it's crazy, dude. It's crazy. It's like, and I've gotten many of these screenshots throughout the week, and I'm just like, wow, people really held when they bought under 10 and they didn't care, and they're continuing to hold. And so from that perspective, again, if it means that it's going to get harder for big money to buy it cheap, even though they're going to try to create a dip, if no one's willing to sell, then, it will just get more and more expensive. And so that's what we got. That's what we have right here, right now. Here's what Jassy said about Palantir yesterday on the earnings call for those that missed it. Definitely got my attention.
Thousands of AWS customers are already taking advantage of the capabilities and price performance of Amazon Nova models, including Palantir, Deloitte, SAP, Dentsu, Fortinet, Trellix, and Robinhood. And we've just gotten started. At the top layer of the stack, Amazon Q is the most...
Not only did he mention Palantir, bro, he mentioned Robinhood. So I think this will, that GameStop meme where the guy gets out of his chair or whatever? I think this is going to be my meme when I hear something good about Palantir. I'm gonna try to turn it into a GIF and just post it every time I hear something good. Because he mentioned Palantir and then right here he mentioned Robinhood right there. And I was like, wait a second, Robinhood? So basically, Jassy said Palantir and Robinhood are using Amazon Foundation Nova models inside of their business. Palantir with AIP in terms of the Nova models, and then Robinhood, I'm not sure exactly what they're doing with it, but I imagine they're creating some agentic finance tools that are coming out soon, and they're using that Amazon Nova models as well. The case in point, the LLMs that Palantir has been talking about for so long that are commoditized and that you need the software to actually make them happen is kind of being proven to be true. We saw that Palantir added Grok yesterday, which was awesome. Elon actually responded to that, and Elon said that it's cool that they are using Grok, operationalizing different large language models inside of AIP via Foundry, and that's allowing more and more opportunities for bringing AI to the enterprise via these LLMs. And so, I mean, Elon's XAI is not going to take Grok into the enterprise, but they can give it to Palantir, and Palantir could take it into the enterprise. Elon gets paid, Palantir gets paid, the enterprise gets value. That's kind of the way I'm looking at the enterprise AI stack playing out. And it's pretty exciting to see the arguments for why LLMs ultimately aren't as important as the actual platform itself. So it's cool stuff. I mean, it's cool stuff. We continue to get more and more catalysts. Palantir did win a couple of awards yesterday from the Dresner Advisory Service Awards as a leader in AI and technology. This is a consulting analytics firm that judges software providers in terms of how valuable their resources are via their surveys, and so they won a top place on that yesterday. I don't think that's why the stock pumped. At this point, Palantir has not released a single press release besides yesterday's award press release and the earnings press release for the first month and a half of the year, right? It's so they don't need to show these crazy deals like they were showing last time. Now it's just a question of execution. They showed us crazy numbers, and still the stock is able to gain momentum outside of needing some massive contract. Because again, I think the stock is completely taking a life of its own. Rick Wong, thank you for becoming a channel member. Appreciate you being here. Thank you for being a channel member. Charles Smith, thank you for the $20 super chat. Wake your ass up a minute. Palantir is running. Palantir is indeed running. It's been running all week. Thank you, Charles, for being here. Not on No Way, thank you for the $5 super chat. Kathy just rebalanced. She still has a lot of Palantir on her portfolio, just took profits. That is correct. Kathy did sell my best friends yesterday, Robinhood and Palantir. It's not really a big sell. I mean, look, she's probably just taking some profits here, rebalancing, but she did take a little bit of Palantir and Robinhood off the table last night as well. The stock was up on the Grok news. Well, maybe the Grok news influenced the stock yesterday. I just think the move from 100 to 110, that 10%, might not have only been Grok. It could have been a part of it, but genuinely, guys, this is my genuine opinion for why Palantir is running. I think a lot of people are looking at this stock and they're thinking it's the next Nvidia, the next Tesla, whatever you want to call it. And there's a lot of FOMO is what I'm trying to say. But that FOMO is not just retail FOMO, in my opinion, given how seismic the move has been since earnings. I think that FOMO is institutional FOMO. And with all these analysts upgrading the stock and saying, hey, there's a moat here, you missed it, you got to really understand Palantir has this unlimited trajectory, unlimited TAM, yada, yada. The institutions are realizing, all right, you know what, we'll throw a couple $100 million at it. We'll throw tens of millions, we'll throw $20 million at it and see what happens. You know, like, and when you got that type of money hitting the bid, it's just hard for it to lose support and come down. And I do think it's been re-rated again after earnings, which is why it's getting the momentum that is getting right now. They finally woke up, correct? They finally woke up. Look, it's wild. It's wild. It is what it is. It's happening. It is freaking happening. We are living through it right now. It is pretty exciting. One thing I will say, though, is that, again, it is just hilarious to see the FinTwit bears that cannot make sense of it. And it's just like, I don't know, it's kind of funny. Because, and then the reason it's kind of funny is, again, I don't think any of these people ever studied the business or ever studied the CEO or studied the, I mean, in fact, they completely wrote off the CEO. They said Alex Karp was freaking crazy. They said he's insane. They said when he, you know, has his soliloquies on CNBC where he's talking about short sellers, that this guy should be arrested. He has no idea what he's talking about. He's, you know, they just completely degraded the name, the thesis, the brand, the CEO. You had people like Ross Gerber saying horrible things about Karp. And then when it got to 40, 50, they only looked at price to earnings or price to sales and concluded there's no way the stock can possibly continue to gain momentum. I'm not saying at 50, you shouldn't look at PE and price to sales and EV to EBITDA and all those things. I'm just saying when it comes to momentum trading, the idea that we don't look at other ways and other qualities and factors of how the stock should be analyzed is absurd. Like, of course you look at that stuff. That stuff is what you got to look at when it comes to trying to analyze a business in its totality. And I think the reason retail got Palantir is because we actually did spend time looking at the qualitative stuff when it was $6, $7, because there was really no good numbers to look at because the numbers sucked. So you kind of had to dive deeper. And because of that, deeper understanding of kind of how this is playing out. Now, there's another argument right here that I want to show. This is like a 3-minute video. The Dean of valuation, for those that love valuation and for those that swear by it, this is like kind of the guy when it comes to valuation. He went on the Prof G podcast and he said, it's kind of hard to say that Palantir is necessarily overvalued.
You mentioned Palantir there, which just had a blowout quarter. It is now the 49th most valuable company in the world. It's up around, I want to say 1,500% in the past 2 years. I kind of expected you to walk in and say it's way overvalued, but you sound a little bit bullish, maybe.
I'll be quite honest. Usually I never say never with a company. I view it as a challenge when a company. Palantir is the one company that I kind of hold off on fully valuing because I'll be quite honest, I have no idea what they actually do. And I'm terrified to ask in case I might end up in Guantanamo Bay because it's the nature of what they do, and especially on their defense, secret service side but if you were building a prototype of a premium AI product, it would look a lot like Palantir, right? It would be data that is exclusive to you. It would require intuitive components to the data because they're trying to second guess what might happen they're gaming out wartime activities. You can't just feed it rules. You got to feed it you need supercomputers and you have very sticky customers. Right? Because once the Defense Department chooses you, it's not like a competitor can come and say, I'll offer 20% less, because there are all these links you built in that are almost unbreakable. So does it justify a 1,500% price increase? I don't know, but I'm willing to listen to somebody who says it is. But as an investor, I need to at least have at least a sense of what a company actually does that makes it unique to be able to bet on it. And Palantir has always been this bridge too far for me. It's one of the few companies in the world where I look at and say, interesting company, fascinating. But as an investor, I can't buy you as a business because I really don't know what you do. I could trade it, but I'm not a trader, right? Trading is just looking for a higher price. Momentum can carry you there. But to me, it is exactly the kind of prototype for this premium AI market that I'm thinking about, where there will be companies that find a space like Palantir and then harvest that space to make as much money as they can.
And again, this is crazy, dude, because Aswath, he thinks NVIDIA is overvalued right here. And he just sold the rest of his NVIDIA shares. He put out a note the other day and he sold half of his position because of DeepSeek, which is, I mean, again, I didn't agree with that, but nonetheless, this guy has been like, he is one of the guys people look to when it comes to understanding valuation. He's a professor at New York University. He's built a very strong personal brand. So people really care about him when it comes to talking about valuation. The fact that even he says, you know, I just don't know enough about them to say there is a limit to how much their market should be capped in terms of their market cap, because I don't understand what they do and I don't understand their TAM. And maybe it really does justify a higher multiple, even if not this multiple, but definitely a higher one. Like, he's being honest about it. And he's also admitting that Palantir, quite frankly, is a unicorn, because it is really hard to gauge what is the potential or the limit on this company at the end of the day.
Do you think it's possible that the rest of Wall Street feels similarly as you do, and therefore that's why we're seeing this price increase? Because is it possible that basically most of Wall Street doesn't really understand what Palantir is or does, and that's what kind of excites them about the company?
And that's the difference between investing and trading. Investing, if you don't understand a business, you can't put your money in. Trading, all you need to do is a momentum in your direction. So if you believe there's a big enough story, and as long as there are enough players who believe the story, you're going to be able to sell at a higher price. So Wall Street may be trading on the fact that Palantir is one of the few players you can point to and say, that guy has a premium product. Other people think like me, because you're just making guess on whether other people stay with the herd. So I believe that, you know, Palantir is one of the few companies with a tangible product or service that you can point to and say, you know, they'll find a way to make money on it because it is unique and different.
We need to get like the department.
So that's what you got in terms of the Dean's argument when it comes to Palantir as well.